sure everything is good over here. Cool. What is going on, guys? I appreciate y'all for joining. I'm super excited for our live stream tonight. I have a very special guest, and we're gonna talk about tech, but in a much more entrepreneurship focused way. And I think our guest today is gonna have so much to share with y'all about that. So make sure that throughout the stream. Sorry, let me turn my phone down, y'all. So make sure throughout the stream, make sure y'all drop any questions down in the chat, and I'll be sure to ask Candice for y'all. And yeah, because I think she's gonna have a lot of valuable insight. So bring all y'all entrepreneurship, startup questions, tech founder questions, all that good stuff about starting a business, to the stream. And we are gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna give y'all like one more minute to roll in, and then I'm gonna go ahead and bring Candice on now, and we will go ahead and get started. So let me just bring up the stream on one other screen so I can just make sure everything is good. Perfect. All right, y'all, here we go. So I am glad to introduce y'all to Mrs. Candice Blacknall, who is the founder of GABA. So Candice, you're now on the stream, and I'm going to let you go ahead and take it away and give the people a little intro about yourself.
Yeah. So, hey everyone. Oh, I'm echoing
Okay.
again.
Yep. Yep.
That sucks.
All right. One
That
second. Is
sucks.
that better?
Okay.
Is that better?
Wait. Yes, that's so much
Okay.
better. I
All
can't hear myself. You know how unnerving it is to hear your own voice talking to you? It's very weird. I don't like that to happen inside my brain. GABA, it's an ed tech company. We're building a platform that uses machine learning to match medical trainees to different study tools and support services. That's what we platform built around like a human doctor, but the medical training experience kind of strips you of your ability to be a human being. And so GABA is a platform to help put that in and help create a safe environment around learning.
Got
Okay,
you.
so let
Give
me
me
get.
1 second, Candice. I think the mic thing just happened one more time. Let me see. It's my
Okay.
it's my headphones. I'm sorry. Let me see.
No, you're fine.
Okay. How's that sounding? In 1 sec, you might be able to hear a difference.
Okay.
Okay. And hopefully now it should be gone.
Okay. I don't hear myself now.
Okay.
So we should be good. But I'm not moving. Am I moving for you?
Let me see. I see you. Yeah, we have a little
Okay.
bit. Yeah, yep. We have a little bit of a lag, but yeah, I see you. Okay.
Okay, cool.
All right. So Candice, so you started a med tech company, right? And I know that's just like
Yeah.
I know that's just a small part of your extensive background. So can you give us a little bit more about like your background prior to entrepreneurship, and then kind of just how GABA even
Yeah.
got started in the beginning?
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, you're so right. So, I started my career in military medicine. I was in the Army for 9 years as a medic.
Mm.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it to the next level. I'm going to go to medical school. So, I went to medical school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, can I curse on your show?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, girl, do your
Okay.
thing. Do your thing.
I got my ass handed to me, long story short. And
Mm-hmm.
basically had to figure out this crazy process of being a medical student. And
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of like, but I feel like there is no before entrepreneurship. I feel like if you're from where I'm
Mm.
from, you're always innovating. So I'm
Mm.
from Flint, Michigan. There's
Mm.
like nothing there. So if you survive Flint, you can survive anywhere. It's like New York, but smaller.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I feel like so after going through that experience as a medical student, I really took a moment between my first and my second year of medicine to sit back and think about what was going to help me be successful, what was going to take me to the next level come second year. And I spent that whole summer doing some self-reflection, getting back in touch with like my personal values and why I even started this journey, and then
Mm.
like learning how to learn.
Mm.
And I went from like almost failing my first year of medical school, like within point 0.3 points of failing, like
Mm.
that close to failing my first year,
Mm-hmm.
to being a 4.0 student my second year, taking my licensing exam, crushing it, scoring better than 80% of the nation. I mean,
Mm.
like a totally different student.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, you know what? This I shouldn't have had to do all this on my own. I should have had someone to lean in with me and really be intentional about helping me develop the skills that I
Yeah.
needed in order to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we created GABA, and so GABA is like my way of like sticking it to the system. Like,
Yeah.
you're not doing a great job with these students. I could do better.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
okay. So were you working on GABA while you were in medical school? Because that sounds like there would have been a lot. Like, were you doing both at the same time?
Yeah, because I'm crazy. So
Ooh, wow. Yeah, tell me about that. I know that sounds like it was just so much.
yeah, so I'm actually a dual degree student. If it's not like, it's like I just couldn't get enough torture. So I actually started I started GABA with my co-founder while doing our MBA. So we're both MD MBAs, and so GABA really started as like an idea around January of this year,
Mm-hmm.
and then went through the MBA at Georgia Tech, finished it in May. And so now I'm a fourth year MD student back at Morehouse. And so I'm finishing up my medical degree, but still working on GABA full time. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't sleep a lot, but
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say that from a time management perspective, I just can't even imagine, right? Because I mean, yeah, wow. Like I
yeah,
mean, medical school in itself just sounds intimidating from the academic side. Just saying. And then entrepreneurship is very intimidating with so many unknowns and so many things
yeah,
that a lot of people have to just try and figure out. And you're constantly just dealing with the business side and customers and getting feedback and research. It's like
yeah,
so you're doing both of those things full time, nonstop,
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much. Some sort of
It,
research.
no, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, it's not easy. And that's why I tell founders, like, if you're thinking about starting a business, make sure it's something that you're passionate about. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's got to be something that just burns you up, either because you're really excited about your customer segment, or like the
Mm-hmm.
problem is really frustrating to you. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have some kind of relationship with what you're going through and
Yeah.
you're going to build. In my case, it's like personal. Like,
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
the system had better supported me, I would have had a different, well, I maybe wouldn't have had such a hard time my first year. I mean, naturally, I created my own solution going into the
Mm-hmm.
second year, but I shouldn't have had to. So, kind of, for me, it's personal. And so
Right.
it's not hard to find the time or to make time for GABA, because it's like, this is my bread and butter. Like I tell people all the time, it doesn't feel like work because I'm getting up to do something that I'm inspired by every day. I love
Exactly.
hearing from our customers.
Mm-hmm.
I love hearing from students.
Mm-hmm.
I like telling the GABA story. And so, yeah, if you're going to do something, make sure you care about it.
Yeah, of course. And I think that kind of spills over into the first question I was going to ask you. So when it came to how you kind of discovered the problem with GABA, you just went through it. That first year of medical school, you were just already
Yeah.
experiencing the problem. So you weren't necessarily, you didn't set out like, hey, I want to start a medical company and like I'm gonna figure out a
Heck
problem.
no.
So like, okay, got you. So this was just
No.
something that from being a medical student, you started going through this the first year, and you were like, you know what? The second year, you're like, you had to do something about it.
Well, all right. It wasn't, it wasn't that like straightforward.
Right.
So,
Okay.
okay, so first year happened.
Mm-hmm.
Second year I came back. I was like, rumbling. I was successful, and I ended up creating a program where I basically did what GABA does, but like one-on-one. So I would like meet with students. I would coach them through the process. We would do learning assessments. I would match them to different study tools manually based on like
Mm-hmm.
my research of what was out there.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was it was growing too fast. So I did that for like maybe 3 years or so. But I started getting referrals from like students who were like living in India. Like, hey, my cousin's cousin goes to your school and went through
Mm-hmm.
your program and loved it, and they told me to reach out to you. And so I realized like this isn't just a U.S. problem. This is
Right.
a global problem
So
potentially.
real quick, not to cut you off, but like about that program, like how can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, so how did you set the
Yeah,
program up? Like, how are people getting in touch
yeah,
with you? How are you matching them with
yeah,
the resources?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Morehouse has a tutoring program. You can be a peer tutor. That
Mm-hmm.
every peer tutor is a little different. I feel like it's kind of an art how you tutor.
Mm-hmm.
But I basically just emailed my class and was like, "Hey, I'm one of the tutors that's been selected. Here are the subjects that I can take you through."
Mm-hmm.
And I started off doing like bare bones tutoring, sitting there doing questions with folks, and I realized like this is not really having the impact that I would want to see. It felt like students weren't feeling the piece that was missing was that self-empowerment piece. Like, they got to a place where they were relying on me every
Mm,
week or every time an exam came up. And I guess
mm-hmm.
maybe that would make some people feel good. But for me, it was like, no, there's got to be a better way to build more self efficacy in this process. So that's when I started thinking, like, how can I train students to understand themselves and understand their learning enough to do this on their own? Like, there's nothing that I'm not rebuilding the wheel here. This isn't rocket science. This is
Mm-hmm.
really just like understanding you as an individual and then taking that understanding and tailoring your approach to the curriculum based on what you know works for you. So I started kind of modifying that, and so started building a lot of like personalized coaching. I mean, there were times I would sit on the call and students would cry. If that's what you needed to do, that's what you needed to do. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it got to be, I realized that it wasn't enough for me to just be like, okay, here are the questions. Let's work through the practice questions. There's something more human behind this problem, which is like, you're insecure, you have imposter syndrome, you
Mm-hmm.
failed your first exam, you're demoralized, and you feel like you're by yourself. You feel like you're going through this all alone.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up combining like personal coaching and just encouraging people's heart with learning assessments that I found online. And then like I would spend hours looking through forums and finding out what resources and study
Oh
tools folks
wow.
were using for various exams.
Mm.
We do the learning assessment. I match you with study tools, and we just worked it. We worked
Wow.
it combined with the coaching. It felt like students believed in themselves. And I started noticing that the students I would see consistently every single solitary week started being like, okay, once every 2 weeks. Okay, I know I'm doing a monthly check in. And I'm like, hey, are you good? And they're like, no, I'm good. I
Got
feel
you.
great.
Okay.
I've got this. And I'm
So,
like,
got
cool.
it. So that's
Yeah.
how you understood that it was actually helping them be more self sufficient. It was just through.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. So then, kind of leading into the next thing. So what was your level of technical knowledge like going into starting GABA? Because it sounds like did you set this up through like meetups? Like how like so I know you had this thing through you said through your school like a peer
Yeah.
mentoring, but I mean
Yeah.
essentially were you setting up like video calls or was that also handled through that? Like how did you kind of get the ball rolling on the
Yeah.
technical side?
I set up video calls. So
Okay.
just like you can get on Calendly and schedule
Mm-hmm.
some sessions, that
Yep.
was what I did.
Yep. Okay.
I have no technical background. So I think that's what makes this really cool, is because I feel like
Yeah.
non-technical founders feel like I can't build a tech company or a tech
Mm-hmm.
product because I don't
Mm-hmm.
have the technical background. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you don't need that. You don't need
Right.
that.
You
What you
don't.
need is to be able to
Mm-hmm.
create the story around your
Mm-hmm.
brand and around your product. That's so important. Like you could build the best technology out there, and if you don't have a good story, people really won't care about it.
Absolutely.
Um, so I'm not the technical person. I can build anything in Airtable though. I'm a mean Airtable genius.
You know what? I've been using Airtable so much
Have
since you
you?
recommended it. Yeah, I have. I have. I've been
It's,
playing around with it a lot. Yeah.
I have to show you some of the stuff I recently built in Airtable. It's
Okay.
gonna blow your
All right.
mind. Like,
Perfect. Perfect.
yeah,
Cause
yeah.
yeah, I'm a baby in it, but I love it so far though. I do love it.
It's awesome. I sent it to my CTO. I'm like, hey, look at what I built. And he was like, very cool. And I was like, if he's saying it's cool, it's
It's
cool.
sweet.
So
Yeah.
I felt really
Exactly.
good. I felt really good about myself.
So I know that from our conversation, it probably sounds like a lot of things went smooth, and we're just like, oh yeah, I was just in medical school starting out, and I just recognized this problem, I started solving it. But like, what were some of the challenges you faced early on when you first got started with GABA?
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what we're going through right now. Like, so when you do the lean startup methodology, they tell you do customer discovery, you do an MVP, you
Mm-hmm.
validate that or refute that hypothesis, and then you build the next version of the product, which is usually the one that's like just good enough to go to market.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the challenge was we built that product. We built the platform for the machine learning to operate in, and we started marketing around that product. And it was like everyone that had been on the prototype and responded to the MVP, suddenly it was like we weren't getting the response we thought we would get. Like you said, this was a problem. We've built the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we not seeing the metrics and the conversion to support that?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, what I realized, and I talked to my executive team about this, is that there's what people say is the problem, and then there's like the underlying subconscious reality of the problem, and you can't test that with an MVP. Right? You can get out there all day and talk to people about if you're building, say, a weight loss product, you can get out there and ask people like, what are you doing for fitness, and talk about diet, and they'll tell you all these things. But if you build a better gym, they might not come. And it's because it's not the reason they have the fitness problem might not be because they don't like the gym. It might be because they feel insecure about being in the gym. It might be because they feel disempowered by the equipment. So building a better gym is not going to help that person. You got to build a better community around fitness. You have to build equipment that's more user friendly, or
I love that.
whatever. But they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to tell you that. Like
Right.
I look back on, I think it was Ford, who was like, if he'd asked people what they wanted in terms of transportation, they'd have said faster horses. Like
Exactly.
they
Exactly.
didn't know. They
Right.
didn't know.
Right.
Nobody would have known. No one that had a BlackBerry would have asked for an Apple product. They
Yeah.
just wouldn't have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing internally at GABA is realizing that what we found in our MVP was absolutely valid, but it's not the primary pain. Like it's not.
Oh my
That's
God,
not the
Candice,
real
that's
the pain.
no. I'm literally going through that right
Yes.
now. That
Yes.
same
Yes.
exact thing. It doesn't invalidate any of the work that you've already done, any of your original hypothesis, but there's just something that could be more urgent, or something that might. For me, it's like things have changed since the pandemic. So like, there's just been a shift to where it's like, okay, well, kids just aren't engaging. They're not participating. They're not turning on their cameras. So like, the whole focus has kind of been. It's not that any of the stuff before didn't matter, but it's like, okay, now there's almost like new things I need to go back in that cycle of customer discovery about this stuff.
Exactly.
And yeah, you're right. You're
Exactly.
right.
So it's like I it's not linear. You're constantly learning
Mm-hmm.
from your customer segment.
Yeah.
So what did I do when
Mm-hmm.
I looked at the metrics and I'm going, I'm sending my investor updates and I'm like, shit, I ain't got really nothing too
Mm-hmm.
new.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
here we doing. I mean, we're okay, but it wasn't what I predicted. Like our MVP took off. I mean, it was crazy. We were getting 30%, 40% month over month growth. And I'm like, what is it? What is going on here? Why aren't people picking up on this? Like, it's kind of frustrating. Like, yo, I built what you said you
Okay.
wanted.
Yeah. Right.
Where are
Exactly.
you?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where are you? And so I did exactly what you said. I went back in the pipeline and I started talking to the users that were on our platform, and I started talking to students, and then I broadened it. I started talking to schools. So at this point, GABA's interviewed over 75 schools at this point. And I talked specifically with folks in student success and student affairs because I wanted to know, what is your perception of this problem? And it really let me know that beneath all of this is the fact that students feel so disempowered and feel so isolated in their struggle that they are not looking for a product that does X. They're looking for a product that feels X. They're looking to feel a sense of belonging and community. There are things out there that are platforms out there for students, there are forums. And what we consistently heard over and over again was that there's trolls, there's people that abuse one another, there's verbal violence, they feel overwhelmed by the platform, there are barriers to them participating. And so we, because I that's qualitative, but I got out there and I started doing some marketing for GABA, like some little paid ads, to see what kind of language makes people really engage with our product. We did two of the same exact ads. One ad I said LinkedIn for medical students, medical trainees. The other ad, I said medical school is stressful, but it doesn't have to be lonely. The lonely ad, literally, it's called the lonely ad in our marketing strategy. It took off. I
Really.
mean, it took off. Like, people were clicking it, people were engaging it. Our conversion went up. Like, we had like crazy amount of visitors. The day that ad dropped, our conversion to our site went like sky high.
Okay,
And I'm like, that's
that's
it.
really interesting. So like, it's an A/B test, and did you just pick like certain social media sites and just say like, I'm gonna run one on this one on that one, or did you run them both equally on the same?
I
how'd
picked
you
one.
yeah, okay,
I picked Reddit. So we only had so
okay,
much money to burn. One
okay,
thing, in startup, you don't have a lot of money to burn. So I picked
yeah,
Reddit.
absolutely.
I was like, this is a concentrated group of folks. They're probably from all over the place.
Very
A lot of
active.
our early, very active
Mm-hmm.
people are, and it's a community. So I was curious, like, what maybe made the people that are on Reddit go to Reddit,
Mm-hmm.
and are they really getting what they want out of that? Now, I learned that a little bit in our MVP, but I don't think I really attended to it the way that I should have. So the A/B testing definitely showed, like, the product of GABA doesn't necessarily need to be different, but the way we talk about GABA definitely does. Um,
Wow.
and it was, yeah, it was hard because what it required me to do is be a lot more vulnerable about my own medical school experience, which I wasn't really feeling. Like it honestly was about me getting out there and talking to people and sharing my own personal story. That was what resonated more than me talking about, the machine learning, the databases,
Wow.
none of that mattered. It
Mm,
was really about this sense of belonging and community that they were really hungry for. Like
that's
the
interesting.
MVP had one pain, but that wasn't the primary pain. So we
That's really
actually
interesting.
Airtable
Hmm.
built a prototype in Airtable to
So we're gonna get you an
to
Airtable
demo that.
sponsorship, Candice. We're gonna, we're
Let
gonna,
me
we're gonna
tell
make that
you,
happen. We're
it,
gonna, yeah,
these people need to put me on the flyer.
yeah, yeah. Seriously. um.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I think so. So boom. So I think we kind of. So you can tell me if we already kind of touched on this or not. So talking about the first MVP and how it was built, did we already kind of talk about it? Because it sounds like the MVP was the sessions that you had one on one with the students and like pairing them with the resources yourself. But then I guess there's like the MVP of the technical side with the
Yeah,
machine learning and stuff. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
yeah. And you know what's crazy? So GABA is a spinoff of that one-on-one program, but
Mm-hmm.
if like I would say GABA as an entity probably came about in like March. I still didn't connect the two. I
Mm.
still didn't consider those
Yeah.
one-on-ones as an MVP. And I actually
Okay.
generated revenue doing
Got
that.
it.
Like I
Got
was
it.
paid to
Got
do
it.
that. I
Okay.
didn't consider it. So go to show you how much
Makes
you
sense.
don't pay
No, it
attention
makes
to
sense. It
stuff.
happens. No, it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
I've done that.
I didn't
Yeah.
connect the dots
Yep. I've done that.
until later. It was
It
like,
happens.
well,
It
you
happens
already
like that.
validated it. I
Mhm.
was like, what?
Mhm.
Yes, I did. So the first technical version of GABA as a platform was built in Wix. I'm a non-technical founder.
Mhm.
I would say if you're a non-technical founder, the best gift you can give yourself is like the gift of Google. Just get out there and search. You'd be surprised how many platforms have, code that is already put together that you could just kind of, pull together, like modules you can pull together to make a platform. And for us, Wix was like my go-to. So yeah, the first version of GABA was honestly a Wix site. Folks could log in with a password. It was a community password. People probably shared it
Oh
all
wow.
over the world. um, but yeah, they would sign up, and then they would get an email from me or one of my co-founder, and they would get a code, like a community password, log into this very like flat interface and like interact with our database. And yeah, we just watch from there. Really basic, no like fancy analytics. Like GABA has stuff on the platform now that's just like ridiculous from an analytics
Yeah.
standpoint.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
we have very basic stuff starting out.
Starting out with a Wix site. So yeah, I mean, but
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
shows the importance of. I mean, I think just like one of the things I wish I could have done earlier was like test something. So I think the great thing about what you
yeah,
did with those early sessions was like you at least tested like something in
yeah.
the market. Like even if it was just like that sessions with students, before you had a website or whatever. Did you have a website at that time too, or was that just something you were just doing?
No, so that's why. So when I did the program, I didn't connect it to GABA. Like I
Okay,
honestly, if you had asked me in January if the program related to GABA, I would have said no. I actually didn't connect it until one of my
got
mentors
it.
was like,
Okay,
GABA is an extension of the program you
of
did. And I was
that.
like,
Okay, got
oh,
you, got you, got
see
you.
how you think.
That's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Um. Okay. So, I think this next one we kind of touched on because I was gonna say
Yeah.
like the early pilot testers, early adopters. So I don't know if you would count your early sessions like that, or if you want to talk about early
Yeah.
adopters on that website. Like when once you got the Wix site
Yeah.
up, like how did you get the early pilot testers or people to kind of come on to that website?
Yeah. So I would say, so what we did was I was already big on Reddit, so we went back to Reddit. We started having conversations with folks very organically about what was challenging. It wasn't like we were necessarily creating conversations, but if a student was already complaining about something, then it was just kind of natural for us to be like, oh, well, there's this thing out here, check it out. And so we actually got, I think, 200 users just from doing that, just from having conversations, spent no money at all. Actually, no, we trialed a Facebook ad and it flopped. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what we realized was that our customers, they prefer the human touch. They really do. They prefer to feel like they know the person behind the brand. It's really important to them from a trust standpoint. And so, yeah, so our first outreach was really on social media. And honestly, we have a really big social media marketing push right now. So, as much as you can, don't spend money on ads unless you're doing some A/B testing on like brand wording or something like
Yeah,
that.
I think that's really good feedback because it's so easy to go ad crazy and just dump a bunch of money into something and think that that's going to have a high
Yeah.
return. But if you haven't done the proper research on the ads to make sure that it's going to work, you're right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's really
Yeah.
that's really great feedback.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so I know we kind of touched on it. You were saying that like even right now there might be some things that you might be realizing and things might be shifting a bit based on the feedback. So like, has there been,
Yeah.
would you say, a pivot based on feedback you've gotten in the past at all, or have you made any changes, or would you say it's pretty much still on par with you thought originally, and like you're just realizing new things or just finding out new things right now that you could maybe solve more?
Yeah. It's not a pivot in the sense of like we're changing. So for me, a pivot is like you are totally shifting
Right.
something like your value proposition or who you serve, like
Mm-hmm.
your product is different.
Right. Right.
We are definitely changing the way we talk about GABA in
Mm-hmm.
a big way. And
Mm-hmm.
then some of the prototypes that I've built so far are around measuring how that changes the way our users engage with it on the platform. It's not really a pivot, it's more like we're in this really cool place because GABA's only 6 months old. So we're in a cool place where we can afford to play with a bunch of stuff and see what happens and then kind of trim the fat. So like I think people sometimes think like, oh, when I'm an entrepreneur, I'm gonna build the perfect product for my customer and I'm gonna get out there and I'm gonna sell it and it's gonna be great. It doesn't happen for anybody, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
Instagram didn't used to be Instagram. Instagram had this like crazy big platform, but then they started noticing that the users weren't using any of the other features. They were just uploading the pictures and looking at the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So they stripped it all back and now we have Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So I think being an entrepreneur is like a constant process of learning.
Of
I
course.
would say we're not pivoting, but if it comes down to like pivoting what we do, then we just have to do it,
That's so
you know?
good. Of
So,
course.
yeah.
Of course. And I know you mentioned that like you had, so you had founders and you had like a technical co-founder and everything. So how did that kind of come about? Because like it's so important in the early stages, like who your team is, especially in a startup. Like so
Yeah.
and then like I know in my case too, like what I've come across is if you don't have like a ton to offer someone like in the early stages, other than like a vision or like this problem that you're trying to solve and getting them excited about
Yeah.
it, like how do you kind of go about like finding that early founding team, or
Yeah.
how did you kind of go about that with GABA?
Yeah. So that's honestly all you have is your vision.
Yeah, yeah.
You have all your vision. And
Mm-hmm.
you might not think that's a lot, right? But that's like your primary job as a CEO is to create the vision and the narrative around the company and the brand. Like
Mm-hmm.
and that's part of selling. Like, you're not just selling it to your customers, you're selling it to your team. And so for me, like I didn't have a technical co-founder. Both myself and my co-founder are both MBAs. But I use what I knew from like my military background, which is
Mm-hmm.
that people don't join you because they have like I know plenty of people, and there are plenty of people that are probably listening to this who have walked away from jobs that paid better, but
Mm-hmm.
the one job they chose was because they felt better about it. So people join things and join movements for a lot of different reasons, and it's oftentimes emotional. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think getting to a place where you can articulate bravely where you are and what you want to do is really important. But also, like, go to Angels List. Like, that's where I found our CTO. Go to, I've hired quite a few like apprentices and interns through Flik, specifically for female founders that may be listening to this. This is where you can go and hire a female apprentice who will work with your company for free for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I went. The reason I'm saying, of course, I looked at F6S, but that you can kind of spam with that. But the reason I'm saying go to those places like Angels List and things like that is because you'll run into other people who have startup experience and they get it. They understand the hustle. You're not about to convert somebody who spent their entire life in corporate America and like loves the corporate journey and the corporate stability to be a startup anything without some kind of pay. I just don't believe you can, because you can't offer them the kind of financial stability that they're accustomed to.
Exactly.
You might be able to do some part-time. Like I do have, like our chief experience officer is at Amazon corporate. You know, our director of accessibility is from Honeywell. So they may part-time it with you. Actually, my CXO is kind of full-time. I don't know how she do that. But anyway, but I don't know how she do that. But anyway, she's like a beast. But, you know, go to Angels List, go to these places where founders and entrepreneurs gather, because then you'll find other talent who already get it. They're already like, all right, so what's the situation? Where are we going? What can you offer me in, you know, 3 months, 6 months, and so on. So I think I was telling you, I have like this internal policy not to offer equity for like the first 3 months. It's like dating. If you don't get past the first 90 days, I really don't know about that.
Can't be going too far.
Yeah, can't be going too far. I don't want to talk about, I don't want to meet your dog. I don't want to meet your kids in 90 days.
That makes sense. Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
So you're paying someone an hourly rate for that period of time, you know, and then you could talk to them on the front end, like, this is what the hourly rate is, but, you know, this is what it looks like long term if you stay with us, you know, equity wise and so on. You can also do like a split deal. So I do a lot of split deals where it's part hourly rate, which lets me get a really good deal, and then it's part equity. And so, you know, you feel like you're building this company. This company is also yours, but I also am not paying like the market rate for your talent. Like, yeah, there's no way in the world I could afford our CTO. Like, none. He's a veteran CTO. He's worked at a company. He's built machine learning and AI products before. He's been a founder. Like, there's no way. But I think having really candid conversations and talking about the vision of the company and the potential to have an impact really helps people feel like they're not wasting their time. You know what I mean?
That's
yeah.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
Can you give me 1 sec? I'm just gonna grab my charger.
Yeah.
1 sec. Okay.
Yeah. yeah. I was terrified that was gonna happen. Do I need to charge this phone? Maybe. Let me see. It's at 50%. All right, here we go.
All right, was not expecting my computer to die that quick, but
no, you're fine.
All right, cool.
You're fine.
But I think that's really great feedback.
Yeah.
Cause like I'm kind of going through something similar as well too, where like again, I think it's important to have, like you said, a strong technical person, right? But not only just that. I understand now the importance of like the code base and keeping it clean, like not having too many people involved in it, because then that could make your product it could send it a whole. So like what you were saying, like if you have that person who knows what they're doing, they know the code base well, and you trust them and their work, and they have that many years of experience, I think giving them that incentive or letting them know that they mean more to you and to the team and to the company than just being a freelancer or a contract worker. I think that's really great advice, especially if you're able to work it into like a better rate per hour too. That's incredible. That's incredible advice right there. So 2020.
Yeah.
2020. So
man, kick this year out.
I know.
Let's just get over it. Let's just go.
I know, right? Because it's already hard enough. It's already hard enough socially, or been challenging enough socially and from a work perspective. But from an entrepreneur and small business perspective, 2020 has been, and it still is very, very challenging and interesting. So has GABA noticed or been affected by COVID-19, 2020 in any way, or had to adjust in any way what you were doing?
I don't know what I was thinking about when who starts a company in a pandemic?
Hey.
I didn't.
Is there ever a good time to start a company though? You know, it's like
there isn't. But do you realize how? So maybe it's my incredible optimism, but it did not occur to me until it had to been maybe a couple weeks ago or a month ago. And I don't even remember who I was talking to, and they were like, "Well, you're in the middle of a pandemic and you started a company," and it was only then that I was like,
"No, that's true." That's a good point. Never thought about
You're
it like
right.
that.
Never thought
Yeah.
about it. Because okay, it's cool. You're right. You're right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 2020. Okay. So first of all, GABA started off a B2C product, and I don't know, like for folks that I'm assuming that's like a thing. Okay, so it started off B2C, um, and we're trying to shift into B2B. So that's when we reached out to Morehouse School of Medicine. We're so grateful for their partnership in helping us fundraise and raise capital. We
Mm.
realized like it will cost us a lot to do this one student at a time, knocking on doors. We really need to align ourselves with these schools.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
COVID happened, and it was like, what? The schools had totally different initiatives. I mean, they're
Yep.
furloughing their staff.
Yep.
They're like, so us
Yep.
walking up to them like, hey, we got this new tech product. You want to try it?
They're
They're
like,
like,
nah.
no, no, I don't have time for this. Stop calling me. I'm like, okay, I thought you
Mm-hmm.
were really nice, Karen,
Mm-hmm.
but now you're mean to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it really took us back a little bit. So we were like, well, we got to keep food on the table and we got to keep the doors open. So then now what do we do? So that actually pushed us to fundraise earlier. We raised $47,000 through just like angel investors, pitch competitions, grants. I mean, we did whatever we could to keep the doors open while we got through the hurdle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So naturally, we're still talking to schools, still building those relationships, but it definitely shifted the priority. Like schools are just, I mean, they're already budget strapped, entities.
As it
So
is.
for something like this to happen, it was like, oh no,
Right.
we
Right.
can't.
Right.
So that happened, but but it also had a good effect. So a lot of companies are going out of business. Rest in peace to all my startup founders out there who are like shutting down shop, and businesses who are like, I can't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's hard. That's a
It's
hard
really
decision.
tough.
I've had to make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
But the talent that they leave behind has to go somewhere. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's how we've honestly scraped up talent as we've went. We've picked up great like CTOs, and we've picked up great designers, and we've picked up people who understand the mechanics of the startup environment,
Mm-hmm.
still are loving the adrenaline rush of trying to build something great.
Mm-hmm.
Their current venture sunk, or may not be a thing anymore, and so they're like, what's next? And that allowed me to be like, GABA's next.
Mm-hmm.
let
That's
me tell you
no,
let me tell you why.
that's perfect because that was gonna be like one of my next questions. So maybe that could be part of it, but it was gonna be like, so what was like one I guess pro and con of this whole transition. So like one of them, it sounds like, was that you were able to scoop up a lot of talent that was just on the market now and things like that. Um, so and then obviously we touched on some of the cons, being like the schools changing their focus and things like that. But is there anything else that you would say like pros and cons in terms of like this new hybrid environment and things like that for startup founders?
Yeah. So pro is that we got to do a whole bunch of pitch competitions that we ordinarily wouldn't have been able to participate in if I had to
Right.
fly
And
from pillar
fly
to
there.
post.
Exactly.
'Cause,
Exactly.
yeah, I'm a fourth year medical student. Like there's nothing I can change about that. But I was
Mm-hmm.
able to see
Mm-hmm.
patients in the morning and like take a lunch break and do an investor pitch real
And do it
quick.
all. Exactly. Yep.
And
Yep.
do it all.
Mm-hmm.
So like this whole like virtual thing allowed me to do that. I would also say from a press standpoint, like GABA's gotten a ton of press. I attribute that to the story that we create around GABA. It might also be my weird background that makes people interested, but because people are held captive at their desk and they're looking at these news outlets, it's not just like scrolling past their brain.
Exactly.
It's like it's been a snowball. You get an article here, and then somebody picks it up and sees it, and they're like, "Hey, can I do an article with you for this?" Or can I? So it's
Exactly.
been great. Like one of our interns was like, "How exactly do we get so much press?" I was like, "Honestly, it
No,
just
seriously, that's something that, no, for real. I think that's something you've done really well. Like, has been the whole PR side has been incredible for GABA. I didn't even, honestly, so
yeah."
much so that like I didn't even know y'all were only 6 months old. Honestly, like until
I
this
know,
conversation, yeah,
I
yeah, I
know.
did not know that.
Yeah,
Because
it.
you wouldn't think that just by like, again, the credence that you get, the company gets from that type of press and that, yeah, those
Yeah,
articles.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It can also be very like imposter syndrome though. Like you get this press, you're like, whew, all right. I don't
But you know
God
what?
forbid.
Hey, It is. It is. Hey, better to have it, not to have it. You know what I mean? It's like,
Honestly.
and in real life, people say fake it till you make it, or whatever the case is. It's not the same concept, but hey, it's
Yeah.
like if they're willing to give you the press, take it. It's like it works.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
um,
Exactly. Exactly.
so if you could go back to day one, right, and you could tell Candice
Okay.
the very day you started GABA, to prepare yourself some advice, what would you say back
Okay.
then?
Probably what I tell myself every day. It's like take it one step at a time. So I feel like as founders, you're a visionary. You see your company and you see it being that multi-billion-dollar enterprise that's like crushing it. You know, you see the I don't want to say tech crunch because I actually don't care about that, but you see the articles and the press and
Exactly.
all that stuff
Yep. Yep.
around your company. And the reality is it's a lot to get to that point. It's a bunch of tiny, tiny, tiny steps. And so,
Mm-hmm.
it's not about getting to the $10 million goalpost. It's about getting to the $1. Like whatever you need to do to get to $1, one sale,
Yeah.
whatever that is for
Yep.
you, then
Yep.
that's what you need to do. And you just need to
Absolutely.
do it 10 million times worth.
Absolutely.
Um, so I think I am like one of my flaws slash is my job is that I'm eternally optimistic. In my mind, we're gonna launch a campaign. 20,000 people gonna see it. 20,000 people gonna sign up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The startup environment will tell you real quick, nah, that ain't how it works.
Right. Right.
That's not how how any of
But
this works.
nothing wrong with having that optimism though, because it's like you need it,
Right,
right? Like when you're
right.
getting beat up so much by just the startup world in general and just the whole
Yeah,
entrepreneur environment, roller coasters every day. It's like that is
yeah,
what keeps you going. That type of optimism
yeah.
is the motivation that you need. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, so one I would say take it one step at a time. Like
Mm-hmm.
don't see yourself for me like okay, yeah, GABA has some revenue projections out there for the 12 months. And then I have, my 6-month goals and all that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I've broken it down to like what are my goals for today? Like
Mm-hmm.
what's my minimal baseline? What is the minimal thing that I need to accomplish today to get GABA to the next step tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
And I actually share that with my team. Every morning they get a Slack update at channel with,
Mm-hmm.
hey, y'all, this is what I'm working on today. Boom, 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 boom. Here are my strategic priorities. Boom, boom, boom. Have a good day. Let's crush this. And so it's about taking it one step at a time. I think that will help you not get so discouraged when things don't, fly out the gate the way you're thinking. And then the other thing I would say is, dang, I just like had it in my mind. And what was it? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
your don't tie your personal value to your product, like at all. Like don't. I remember when we first started advertising, I was super excited about GABA, and I got to some place like in around 30 day mark after hearing all those no's and like, we're answering all these hard questions and like talking about and it's harder with GABA because I'm not only having to explain my business, but I'm having to educate the investor on the other side about what it is to even be a medical student. So it's like there's a lot of back reading that had to
Mm-hmm.
have been done
Mm-hmm.
before we could even so it's like I'm
Mm-hmm.
creating the foundation and
Mm-hmm.
telling them about the business. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn how to get that really succinct so
Mm-hmm.
that they could understand what we're doing, understand the problem, understand the solution, and then we can get to the meat and potatoes of what they want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I can remember around the 30 day mark, I don't even know how many investor pitches I had been in at that point. It had to have been, it was ridiculous. And
30 days from
we had
starting?
no
30 days from starting GABA?
from starting.
Wow.
Well, no, from starting investing. So we
Okay.
started fundraising in September.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I want to say around October, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, all right, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done. I'm burnt. I just remember coming to my team and being like, y'all, I'm getting my ass handed to me out here. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not because we're not great. It's not because we're not doing the right things. It's not because we don't have the numbers. It's just some combination of things that I can't even predict. So, but I think the reason why I got burned out was because it started to feel like people were saying no to me personally. You know what I mean? Like they
Mm-hmm.
were questioning my personal
Yeah.
competency.
Yeah.
Like you don't believe I can do this? Like I
Yeah.
got this. Like I built this company from
Mm-hmm.
nothing in January.
Mm-hmm.
Like I started getting like defensive.
Like
Like hold
defensive
on,
about it. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
hold up.
Yep.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt like Erica Badu. I'm sensitive about my shit. Like
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute. Wait
Yeah.
a minute. Um, I had to really step back and be like, that's these people's job. Just
Mm-hmm.
like it's your job to get out here and talk about GABA, it is these folks' job to ask you the hard questions, to push you, to challenge you. And you know what? It's your job as a CEO and the founder to figure out how to take that push and turn it into opportunity.
Right.
It's not about you. It's not a personal thing. It's a them thing. If you got to make it about a film, it's a them thing. For some time, I was like, VCs are stupid.
It's
Like
frustrating.
whatever you need to do, but like don't personalize it, because you have to understand like your product may change. You're not building just a product, you're building a company. That's my third advice. So yeah, I'm trying to keep things in order. My third advice would be realize that you're building a company, not a product. And because there are some things you need to do when you're building a company that are totally different from when you're
Different from
building
a
a product.
product. That's
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
I didn't play games about my team. I don't play games about company culture. I don't play games about organization and documentation. Not because they benefit GABA as a product, but because they'll benefit us as a company. And so I was really picky about a lot of different stuff that probably didn't make a whole lot of sense. The agenda needs to be done before the meeting, and it needs to be, signed, sealed, and delivered after the meeting. Like it has to be. This is my record of what has happened, of GABA's growth. It doesn't make any sense when you think about the product. Like you don't need minutes and agendas to build a product. You can build a great product and not have any documentation, but it is for a company. So I would say, looking back, advice I would have told myself is, well, I guess I kind of did it, but be mindful of the fact that you're building a company and not a product. Someone else told that to me at the time. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. And then when I actually got in the grind of building GABA, I was like, oh, okay, I see what they're saying. Like there's a lot about GABA that doesn't even translate into the dev environment. But it's important. Like people need their paychecks on time. That's payroll, QuickBooks. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Those are great. Those are great. And then I think that while you were talking, I kind of had a little personal productivity question
yeah,
that kind of snuck in there. So when it comes to like setting up your day to day, right? So you send the Slack message out to your team and everything like that, so, which I think is great, just to let them know kind of like that you are focused or what you're focusing on and things like that. So it doesn't feel like things are kind of just ad hoc. But how do you go
yeah,
about? But how do you go about structuring that, right? When as a CEO, sometimes like it's tough. Like there's a million things you need to do, and then prioritizing it every
yeah.
single day into like what I'm gonna do. So like, do you like how some people might meal prep on Sunday? Like, do you know your entire agenda for the week on Sunday, and then you just send that message out every single day, or is it like at the end of every night
Nah.
you take time to think about what do I need to do for the very next day, and just like
Yeah.
how do you go about that?
That piece.
Yeah.
That piece. At the end of the night, I have to sit down and reflect, because it's inevitable. Something didn't get done, or I don't know, a meeting went really, really great. And somebody was like, oh, let me get you online with this person at 3. You have another hour block. And I'm like, sure. And then they were like, oh, can you send us this and this and about GABA? That wasn't on my to-do list. I
Exactly.
had on my to-do list to
Exactly.
interview you for 30 minutes, and you didn't 8 4 hours of my day.
That's a good
And
point.
so
So
it's
things coming
inevitable.
in too, like new things popping up throughout the day. Yeah.
Yeah, when the media people, oh, can we do this interview? That's not on my schedule. I have to make time for them.
Right.
I have to make time for social media responses now. Like building a community on social media, I have to respond to people, like people's stuff, engage with people that are engaging with Gabba's content. I have to post myself. None of that is on my schedule most of the time. So at the end of the day, I have to reflect on, okay, what didn't get done? What needs to be done tomorrow? But all day long, I'm prioritizing. I'm like, I'm looking at my to-do list. And when you look in our Slack in the beginning, it's just what I'm doing. Throughout the day, you'll see done, in progress, moved. Like you'll see me having
Really?
updated it with what I'm planning to do.
Oh
I
wow.
use it as my task list throughout the
Oh
day.
wow.
So my
Okay.
team knows, like, all right, this is done. No, this she's waiting on
Got it.
this. Okay, this. I'll ping someone. Hey, this is in progress. I'm waiting on you, and they're like, okay, I'm on it. I got it.
Wow.
ClickUp. We use ClickUp for a lot of stuff. ClickUp will ping. So and so did this. Okay, great. I know. And usually my team, we communicate a lot through Discord and things like that. So I'll see and ClickUp like so and so just knocked this off the task list, and then Discord will start ringing, and I'm like, hello, and they're like, just calling to let you know I just shipped the thing. I'm like, I got it. I saw it in ClickUp. I'm on it. I'm moving. So no, I don't plan the whole the whole shebang. And like, of course, you being a developer, you know that when you plan a dev timeline, stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
You get in there and you're like, ooh,
Absolutely.
wait a minute.
Absolutely.
Ooh, wait a minute. Ooh,
Absolutely.
wait a minute. You
Yep.
know, and so
Yep.
so that changes. So like
Mm-hmm.
we do two things. I do my daily updates. My
Mm-hmm.
daily updates are based on the 6 month goals. So GABA has 6 month, 12 month, and 18 month goals.
Got it.
The 6 month goals are probably the clearest to me. The 12
Got
month
it.
goals, honestly, they depended on the 6 month goals.
Of
We'll
course,
see if
of
we
course,
get
of
there.
course. Yep, 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 yep. No,
We
that's
may
a
have to
great.
shift some things.
I think that's great. I think
Um,
that's great to have
yeah,
objectives like that
yeah,
throughout the year, and then too 6 months in a year is good too because quarter like to me if I think about quarterly goals that feels like a lot of pressure, right? Because like it just things
yeah,
happen so
yeah,
quick, especially when you either work a day job or like you're in medical school, right? You got like so
yeah.
much other stuff going on. It's like that quarter goes by very quick with exams and
Woo,
studying and things
fast.
that so like I think six
Yeah,
months and 1 year goals are. I think that's really good advice too because it
yes,
helps keep
yes,
things in perspective and it keeps you intentional about like why am I doing what I'm doing and like why do these things
yeah,
matter? How do
yeah,
I prioritize my stuff?
yeah,
So that's really great advice. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So create a 6 month plan,
Mhm.
do SMART goals for literally be specific,
Mhm.
measurable. Is it, all of the SMART acronym
Mhm.
for how
Mhm.
you're going to get to those 6 month goals. And then I
Mhm.
take those 6 month goals and I say, okay, if I'm going to accomplish this in 6 months, what do I need to accomplish in a month? Each month, what do I need to do?
Mhm.
Okay, what are the specific steps that will lead up into me meeting those monthly goals? Keeping in
Mhm.
mind, I'm going to have good days and bad days.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I need to have 280 site visitors on our landing page between this time frame and this time frame. Okay, what are the specific actions that I can take to make that happen? Well, I could do social media blasts. I could do interviews. I could reach out to media. I can talk to our users. I can build out an ambassador program. And so then I'm like, okay, so how do I do that? Well, I need to reach out to a certain number of influencers every day. I need to send a certain number of emails every day. And so then you can see on a day-to-day basis, this is what I at minimum need to do to be able to feed into my goal for the month, which will then feed into my goals for 3 months, which will feed into my goals for the 6 months.
Mhm.
And so I build my
That's
task
awesome.
list based on that. Now, it may change. I take every Wednesday, I call it Wellness Wednesday. I encourage my team to take off and just reflect. So actually on Wednesdays, I do very little work. I go to the trail. I think about the week, lament the setbacks of the month if necessary. And yeah, but I create the task list. The only thing that is consistently deployed on like a regular basis is our product roadmap that comes out on Sunday evening or Monday morning. And it is a Notion file that basically says, this is what we shipped last week. This is what we're shipping this week. This is what's coming up next. And it's just for the company to get an overall view of what's going on from a product level.
Okay.
Um, but that's the only thing that is consistently shipped out aside from my daily updates.
Got it. So there's constantly like the updates on the tech side going out to the team. So you guys are always evolving the platform pretty much at all times
Yeah.
while you're doing the business side too. So yeah,
Yes.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to get my company to that point too. It seems like right now
You
that's
will.
like one of the next steps. Yeah, because that's so important to be able to for you to be able to go focus on what you guys need to be building, but then also the
Yeah.
building is happening at the same time too. So those
Yeah.
two things, yeah, being synced up is super important. I think that's
Yeah.
that's mad valuable. And I guess sneak one more little one in there.
Yes, of
So you,
course.
you mentioned like reaching out to PR. So is that like can you talk a little bit more about that? Like how did
Yeah.
so when you go about the storytelling, it's almost like I've heard you talk a lot about the storytelling of GABA, and that seems
Mhm.
like it's been a really important piece, right? So like when you
Yeah.
go to convey that story, like how do you go about approaching those people to get like that PR, that press? Like how are you saying that hey, like are you just letting them know like we're this new medtech company and we just want to let you guys know what we're doing, like we're on the market or we're doing this, like how do you go about getting that because it works, like
Yeah.
whatever you're doing definitely works. So like
Yeah.
how do you go about initiating those conversations and getting the story out there about GABA?
So first things first, draft up a press release. And so you want to hit the highlights. Don't
Mm-hmm.
I think our press release is super short. It's like maybe 300 words or something. It's
Okay.
super short.
Okay.
And it hits the highlights. It's
Mhm.
like, it talks about what GABA is.
Mhm.
My background tends to be
Mhm.
a interesting point of for
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
What the company does, where we are as a company,
Mhm.
just a little bit of a background,
Mhm.
and just like our vision and
Mhm.
like the website.
Got it.
And honestly, just the same way as you cold call investors and email customers, you do the same thing with PR folks. You go on their websites, you
Mm.
get their emails, you
And just
blast them, you
blast
send
them.
them, hey,
Got it.
this is what,
Yeah.
just keep in mind they don't have a lot of time. So keep it
Right.
short. It's a
Right.
nugget. You want it to be interesting. The other thing I would say is like align yourself with build your network. My
Mm.
primary job as a CEO is to build my network. GABA can only reach as far as I reach.
Mhm.
So I would love to be able to say, like, oh, all of this PR and stuff that I did on my own was the reason why we got this stuff. It absolutely wasn't. Like, actually, I think we sent out 35 emails. We did this a long time ago. It was when GABA was like 3 months old. So go to show you how audacious I was to be
Mhm.
telling to come write an article about a company that's 3 months old. I would
Mm.
say don't think small, think big. So do
Of
big stuff
course.
now.
Of
Like,
course.
because I
Definitely.
at the time I was like, oh my god, I don't know if I can really. But then I was like, you know what? They don't know it's three
No,
months
they
old.
don't.
Let's
They
go.
don't.
Let's
Yeah.
whip this
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly.
Whip it.
Mhm.
Think big. Give yourself permission to be big.
Mhm.
So we emailed 35 different news outlets in Atlanta and in different parts of the country, like diversity magazine, women's magazine, things like that will like
Mhm.
stick to your
Mhm.
point, veteran stuff.
Mhm.
And I think of those, two people reached back and said, yeah, we would love to pick up your story. And that's just the
That's just the
reality. They got
numbers
a
of
lot of
it.
stuff
That's
going
just how
on.
it goes.
They got a
Right.
lot of stuff going on.
Right.
Yeah. You're not the only thing. It doesn't take, again, don't take it personally.
Of course.
But the thing I think was most powerful in terms of aligning, getting more press,
Mhm.
was organizations and building my network. So um GABA graduated from an accelerator program. You
Mhm.
do a demo day. That's a very public thing.
Mhm.
And people inevitably will Google you or look at your stuff from demo days. And
Mhm.
so make sure your digital presence is tight. Make sure you have a narrative around yourself.
I
I
love
have
that.
a website of my own that
Which
people
looks
can go and click
amazing,
and
by the
see.
way. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
It needs a facelift. It's coming. Because I have to link GABA to me because I get more traffic than GABA right now. So,
Mhm.
but needless to say, get your story
I love
together,
that
because at
personal
the end of the
branding.
day,
Mhm.
they're looking for you. They,
Mhm.
yeah, you built this company and they're excited about it, but they want to know this cool story. Who is
I
this,
love that, Candice.
black female veteran doctor businesswoman?
Definitely. I
What?
love
Like,
that. I
they
love
want
that.
to know.
That's a good
Yeah.
that's something that cuz
Yeah.
I don't have that, and usually like unless you have a really common name, I think like grabbing your name as a domain is usually fairly
Grab your
simple to
name.
do, and I
Yeah.
that's something that I've always wanted to do. I love personal branded websites. Like they look amazing, but
Yeah.
I always felt like I had to be like some sort of speaker looking to be like booked, or like I don't know, a freelancer looking to have my service before I had like a personal branded website. But I think for what you're saying, just like the digital identity and just like the whole just look of it, it just looks very like you take your personal brand
Yeah.
and image very seriously, and that goes a long way
Yeah.
when people are doing research. I love that feedback.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take
Give
that note myself.
yourself permission to
Hmm.
be big.
I
Give
love
yourself
that.
permission. I built that site. I think I built the first version of that site when I was an undergrad.
Mm.
Like, at some point, it was like badges. It was like red. It was hot red at some point. It was hot red, but
Making a
that's who I
statement.
was at the time.
Making a
I was that
statement.
person at the time. And so yeah, I know. Woo, looking back. Woo. And so yeah, so create your own, clean your presence up, because what they're gonna do is they're gonna hear about you from this event. They're gonna Google you. They're gonna get inspired by your story. Then they're gonna reach out.
Hmm.
And then they'll write a story, and then it's inevitable that somebody's going to read their stuff and be like, all these news outlets, they read each other's stuff.
Hmm.
They all
Hmm.
read each other's stuff and they talk to each other. Some of them probably do freelance for other people while they're working at other companies.
Yep.
So they read the story and they're like, whoa, okay, this is a cool story. Let me get my
Hmm.
company's version of that. And so
I
then they
love it.
go and they do the same thing. They Google you and they're like, oh, okay. And they reach back out again. And so it ends up being something that feeds itself. Like I have not done any active PR around GABA. It's been a machine like this. It's been organic connections with
Mhm.
people, like
Mhm.
you and I just having a
Mhm.
conversation and then finding out, like, oh, by the way, I
Yeah.
have this blog
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
technology
That's
that
awesome.
gets like 100,000 readers, and I'm
That's
like, oh,
awesome.
and they're like,
Yeah.
you want to be on it?
Yeah,
I'm
let's
like,
do something. Yeah, that's
sure.
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
So build your network. Get out
Mhm.
there, build your network, own your brand, and I mean, because you are the company at
Of
this point. You
course.
don't
Of
have nothing
course.
else but you.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Thank you, Candice.
yeah.
So we are right at the hour mark, and I feel like you gave so many gems in 1 hour. Like I've already felt like that was gonna happen, but no doubt, like this was incredible. We definitely have to do this again because I think you have so much to just
Yes.
share. And I think this is just incredible. I think people are gonna get a lot out of this. So I want to give you a chance now to give out any shout outs. I'm gonna go ahead and put up on the screen the gogabba.co, and I'll let you go ahead with any shout outs
Yes.
and next steps you want people to go follow up with you after this.
Yeah. If you love this conversation, I would love to hear from you. You can absolutely connect with me. It's candice.blacknall@gogabba.co. But definitely follow us on social. It's at GoGabbaCo on like Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Especially if you're a medical student or you know someone interested in the medical field, get in contact with us. We have some awesome deals going right now. So yeah, I'm excited. I look forward to connecting.
Perfect. So Candice, thank you so much. I super
Yay.
appreciate it. You have an incredible Christmas, a very good New Year, and I'll definitely be in touch. So I'm sure I'll speak to you before New Year's and everything. But thank you so much
Yes,
for coming on, Candice. This was so valuable. I appreciate you just being so vulnerable, open, honest about your journey, and just sharing all this with us.
for sure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Talk soon, Candice.
Bye bye.
See you. All right, y'all. So I super hope that y'all found that valuable. Candice is incredible. So make sure y'all go follow up on GoGabba Co on across all social medias. Check out Gabba online. So yeah, guys, I really appreciate y'all tuning in. This is Darian with Darian the Dev. I probably won't be uploading again until after my birthday, which is coming up in a couple days on Thursday for Christmas Eve, and then we got Christmas obviously. So I will likely be uploading again right before New Year's. But thank y'all so much for just an incredible 2020. We're at 812 subscribers. I just appreciate so much the growth. Like this year started out with 100 subscribers on the channel at the top of 2020. So we've had some incredible growth this year. I cannot express how appreciative I am for everybody who's just been tuning in this journey. Let me guys know what other content you guys want to see. If you want more conversations like this for the startup community and entrepreneurs out there, if you found this helpful, let me know. We can keep doing these and having guests on to talk about startup stuff and entrepreneurship stuff more. But yeah, y'all, this is Darian with Darian the Dev. I super appreciate y'all. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.